Yes, we are almost there, as Stephen has already said to us in the pre-show chat, which was minimalistic, to be honest with you, as we only turned the computer on about 2 minutes ago. So, yeah, it's all go, 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 and hey, it's all extra superbly planned and scripted tonight, as you can probably tell. So, joining me in this crazy wonderland that we call YouTube live streaming, I have Stephen Harris. How are you doing, sir?
Very good. Hello to all those viewers out there. Once again, great to be on the TDM. Another edition.
It is. I do have to ask you a question though. So, what are you wearing? Because it's you're not wearing a blues. You're not wearing a blues rugby jersey, and that basically.
No. This was a case of got home very late and threw the first thing that came out of the drawer on, but it's a Hawke's Bay rugby training jersey.
There we go. Okay. So it is actually a rugby jersey. Fine. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, it's not a rugby jersey, but traiin shirt.
But yeah, okay. Mine's a polo shirt, so I'm not sure really that counts as being a rugby jersey either. But there you go. And Ashwin, how are you doing, sir?
Yes, I'm doing well. Someone who is wearing a rugby jersey.
You are, and it is one of the one of the blues monstrosities that they've.
Yep.
Their attempt at being a blue tiger for some reason. I've got no idea what that's. Maybe it's Tiger Economy of Auckland, being the financial centre of New Zealand. Right then, do we want to jump straight into Super Rugby, or should we just quickly recap some of the key games from the weekend?
Go on, let's recap, because we're probably gonna go on about the old Super Rugby, aren't we?
We probably are, to be honest. That's very true. So we had Six Nations this weekend, where Ireland bounced back and beat Scotland, and Italy lost to Wales, which was kind of expected. But I think the significant game of the weekend was probably the way that England sort of took France to pieces at the weekend. Stephen?
Yeah, pretty crazy. On saying that, I almost saw this coming, because the French, they lose by a couple of points or so, and they make a whole lot of wholesale changes, including I thought young Intermac in the test against Wales actually played reasonably well, but they changed out their first five again. But listen, on the day, they were well and truly cleaned out, and I think they could thank their lucky stars that maybe England switched off a little bit too, because they scored their last lot of points in the when was it, about the 55th minute. So that means there was still 25 minutes to go where they didn't put on any points. I'm saying that we saw France with the ball that they did have, but they kept on making mistakes here and there. I think probably their best opportunity was a break down the left-hand side, where all really Bastareaud had to do was draw and pass, and he pretty much threw the pass almost to the guy on the sideline. So that was probably really their best opportunity of putting on some points in the second half. But once again, very impressive from England, but I almost wonder if it was a case where they may have buttoned off, a lot of changes made as well. Probably just wanting to get through that game without having too many injuries. But listen, big ups to them. You take a 44-8 victory over France every day of the week, and twice on Sundays.
Absolutely.
I have to say, I was when I first sort of saw the score, and I woke up and when the game was actually going, and I saw the score, and I thought, oh nah, I won't go watch that, because obviously it was game was already over and it wasn't half time. And at that stage I was sort of thinking really impressive performance, and it was. But for some reason I thought it was in France. And then when I was just like, oh, it's at Twickenham, it's just like, yeah, that's classic France, isn't it? If they don't turn up, they just don't turn up.
Yeah. There's one player that really sort of caught the eye for me, was the English centre Slade. It looks like he's got so much acceleration off the mark from a standing start. And he definitely got something about him. I know Johnny May, obviously touchdown 3 times, gets the player of the day, but I think there's something about Slade, about that Slade-Tuolangi basic combination that's starting to come together. Would you agree with that, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Slade's one of those players. He used to play fly half in his under-20s, and he's somebody that for about the last 5 years we've been thinking, yep, here he comes. This guy is going to be an England player for a long time. and they've not really figured out where his right place, and it's taken him a while to settle in. But it does feel like, pardon me, that during November and particularly now, this is sort of his coming of age, and he's feeling comfortable at international level finally. So yeah, no, it's been really good to see that. I guess my question, one of my points, my thoughts are that they beat Ireland by kicking in behind when they replaced their first choice fullback with a player who hadn't played fullback for 2 years. They've beaten France when they replaced their fullback with a winger and played 2 centres on the wings. I can't see Wales giving them that much space and that much area to kick into again in a next time out, and that's going to be, to me, a real test. I think a lot of the English press are getting ahead of themselves at the moment, but hey, they're known for that.
You know, Paul, when you consider where they were 12 months ago, good on them as far as I'm concerned. We, as an All Black supporter, we'd be happy with a 44-8 scoreline over France, whether it was over there or over here. It was pretty impressive. I still don't think somebody like Billy Vunipola is quite at his best at the minute. I mean, to say still hugely good over the advantage line, but I still don't think he's anywhere near his best. But they've got a battery of locks that can pretty much hold their own against anybody. Cruz and Laws, and they lost Toji quite early as well. Didn't they lose him quite early?
Yes, they lost Toji to injury quite early, and that was a big problem. Okay, so we unfortunately have got some live issues in the fact that it's not broadcasting like we said it's like it should have done. So you're right, they have had that situation. Let me sort out the technical issues, but yeah, I think they've got the best depth in lock out of any country in the world. Maybe not the best 2, but the best 4 locks in the world. And I think what we've seen the last couple of times is what happens when England have got basically all their or the vast majority of their first choice players available, rather than losing people out to injury, which is what I think has happened over the past couple of years. But the other one that shocked, the other one, we had Wales and Italy came to a 7-7 draw in the Women's Six Nations. We had Ireland beat Scotland, but then England with a fairly convincing victory over France in the Women's Six Nations. That was quite a big surprise for me.
Yeah, and the reason that's a big surprise is because France beat the Black Ferns over just before Christmas. And that was a shock, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. Maybe the French were still dining out on their victory. Pardon the pun, over the Black Ferns earlier in the piece. So yeah, definitely some interesting results. I know that the result that stood out for me on the weekend was Brazil's result over Canada. But just before we do jump on, I suppose we should just acknowledge the Ireland-Scotland game as well. I had a good look at that game, and I just felt with those games it was like watching the older brother play the younger brother, and the older brother always just had that arm's length on the younger brother. Scotland were full of endeavour, but I didn't think they offered a heck of a lot in attack. In fact, I think both teams probably didn't offer a lot in attack, because you look at some of the tries, some of them were almost like gifted tries, if you know what I mean, guys. But Ireland always collectively looked the more dangerous side, but just probably in the case of Joe Schmidt, what will concern him was the injury to their playmaker Johnny Sexton. But I thought Carberry, bar his intercept pass, I thought was pretty tidy at first 5.
Did we really expect Scotland to sort of win that game, though? I think, it's a case of they'll put up a good fight, as they always do at Murrayfield. But I don't think we expected Ireland to not get the result. No, not at all. They always going to be hard, but you kind of never know
with the Scots. They might come up with that one performance which does it for them. I just thought an area where Ireland were way better was just with their ball carriers, just getting over the advantage line. I thought the Scottish loose trio, every time, I think Strauss, I can recall him 3 or 4 times just getting back basically owned by Mahoney, who had a fantastic game. In fact, probably Ireland's player of the day.
So you're saying Ireland did really well with their forwards playing Warren Ball?
Yeah. Pretty much. Probably after last week, it was never going to be easy for them to really try and find the same levels again. I mean, to say we heard one Richie McCaw during the week, who anybody listening to local radio over here, a couple of interviews that he did. He said that's the real key for a lot of these teams, is getting up 4 weeks in a row, and that's why we look at the All Blacks coaches, we're looking at England. Those teams that are starting to develop a little bit more depth are probably the teams that are going to be at the business end of RWC later this year. Where teams like Scotland, probably not a lot of depth. They lose a couple of players here and there, and they're sort of not they're not the force that they could be. I sort of look at their loose forward of Richie, Strauss and Wilson. Well, they're not exactly names that sort of sing out. I know they had, usually when John Hardy is playing for them, he's really good at the breakdown, really good footballer. He's Highlander and was he Southland or Otago? He's normally pretty good, but even Ireland, if you look through some of the names in their team, they weren't at full strength as well. They had Rue playing. I think they were missing the real big fella, Devon Toner, the big 6'10", 6'11" guy, and there were a couple of others missing. I'll tell you who I was impressed with, and probably in terms of selection too, was seeing Carney back at fullback. I think maybe just a selection error. I don't know whether he was out injured in the England game, Paul, or he just wasn't selected, but I thought that might have been a mistake from that particular game.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a mistake. He wasn't injured, but he wasn't selected. And a lot of raised eyebrows when Carney wasn't selected. And as I say, that's where I think we're going to really see what England's made of when they're up against Wales with either Halfpenny or Shane Williams at fullback, a proper fullback there, and that's where I think we'll see a big difference, and see whether that kicking game style will work really.
Yeah, and Ireland Wales guys are probably not unexpected. I suppose the only thing I didn't really figure out.
Italy Wales.
Yeah, Italy Wales. Beg your pardon. At Wales, we're going to play pretty much a second string side from what I understand. So, but I see Warren Gatland was still pretty upset about the way they played. I suppose he wants all their players, even the second string players, to be better.
Yeah, Wales have got 2 wins, which is what they want, but their performances haven't been great. Let's be honest, so that's really where it's coming from.
Just basically with that, though, I think it comes back to everybody that is a contender realises that what you alluded to before with Richie saying on the radio this week, in terms of the fact is that you've got to have a squad that can play 4 games in a week. In a row. So at the end of the day, you've got no choice but to throw out your second stringers in a situation where you possibly can. So you get playing against Italy, you've got to do it. If you don't, you're not going to have that depth in the squad to play 4 weeks in a row to win a Rugby World Cup.
And I think one of the things that I took away from last weekend was how how different teams were approaching selection. So when we very rarely see New Zealand put out the exact same team in 2 games on the trot. Normally there's a change somewhere. England changed Jack Nowell for Brian Ashton. No, for Ashton.
Yep.
And the sort of like, he doesn't deserve to be dropped. It's like, look, you can't play your first choice team every single game. You need to be rotating it and moving it around so that you've got different. The different players can play together. And I think that's a big difference between how the teams do.
Yeah. I was just gonna back the truck up here. I haven't done that for a while, so beep, beep, beep. Just Steve and I don't generally disagree, but I'm going to disagree with him on this one point when he mentioned the fact is that even with that England-France game, even the All Blacks fans would have been happy with. No, I disagree with Steve. If that game, that scoreline had been at Eden Park, everybody would just be saying, oh, well, the French didn't turn up, the All Blacks didn't really have an opposition. We don't talk the All Blacks up when they go. If they did it in France, we'd talk it up possibly, but never at home we would.
To be fair, I was more allergic to the actual scoreline, the point spread. Yeah, most All Black supporters would be happy like that. Where if it was only, say for example, the Wales-Italy scoreline, they'd all be probably moaning their heads off that the score wasn't big. If it was played in France, yeah, we'd probably take that score. But in New Zealand, the expectation level, and I agree, is so high. I suppose one thing that is playing out in my mind, I had so much expectation with the Six Nations, but after 2 rounds, I've got to say probably just the game of all games has really been that England Ireland games. The other games you've got to say have been a bit, the Ireland Scotland game, plenty of endeavour in that game, and you saw in the France Wales game, first round once again, plenty of endeavour in that game. But I don't know, I just feel a little bit ripped off at the moment. So roll on 2 weeks' time when England go to Cardiff.
Look, I absolutely. I was thinking as well in terms of that first week, even as someone who doesn't. I mean, it's rugby, so you love watching rugby. But I was really excited to see that first round of the Six Nations. I wasn't really interested in the second round, and then as I sent a message out to you guys a couple of days ago, or was it yesterday or whatever? It's just like England Wales. Decides the pretty much going to decide who wins, and
Well, I still got up for the France England game because you hope it's going to be a good contest. I would have still had England winning by 20 points, and that's off the back of a lot of confidence. But even there, they made a few changes, and they still put out a good performance. And probably Eddie Jones, you only had to look at his body language sitting up in the stands. He didn't look happy, didn't he? Even the commentators were saying, "Crack a smile, Eddie." And yeah, he was a bit ticked. He just wanted them to go for the jugular and get over the 50 points, but they were just making little sort of handling errors, trying too hard. But there were a lot of rolling subs.
Which you have to do that though, isn't it? I mean, you actually see the All Black selectors also, or the coaches get ticked off in the coaching box when they've won. Let's say they've won the game in the first half, and then the second half it's drop ball here, drop ball there, indecisive play or whatever. And you do want the subs these days to roll on, and then just basically carry on like nothing's changed.
Yeah. Not always easy though.
No, not at all.
Right then, so for those of you watching the recording, I'm sorry we had technical issues during the go live, so we're not actually going to be streaming live, but the recording will be available after the show. I'm just going to let people know on the live chat about that. So we'll get to that, and we'll look at the streaming issues next time. So yeah, if you're watching the recording, please enjoy, and those of you who are trying to watch it live, thank you for coming along. But hey, we'll try and figure it out for next time. So yeah, let's touch on those ARC results because there were two big ones really. Uruguay did okay against Chile. I mean, they beat them, but not by a massive amount. So perhaps Chile overperformed there. But Argentina 15 absolutely thumped the USA, and also, as you say, Brazil saw off Canada 18-10.
Yep, that's got to be the biggest result for Brazilian rugby. It was fantastic to see. Unfortunately, I did not see that game, but I did watch a good part of the Argentina US game. I was a little bit disappointed with the US. They had enough ball, but unfortunately, whenever they got into any sort of reasonable position, they made mistakes. And unfortunately, if you give another team more possession, they're just going to end up winding you down. And the Argentinians which is basically would be a second or third 15.
Yeah, second 15. Yep. They've improved how they select players and stuff, but yes, basically a second 15.
Yeah,
effectively. Yeah. Sorry, go, Steve.
Yeah, that's some pretty useful players there. You can see that they're players that they're obviously grooming for higher level, and they just had a bit too many smarts for the Americans. Americans were just a little bit disciplined, but I'm saying that the Americans came back and scored a couple of late tries that could have blown right out, but they came back. Just a little bit of ill discipline from the Argentinians, where I think one of their midfield backs ended up with a yellow card, but I'm deeply disappointed I missed the Brazil-Canada game.
Yeah, I think from what I've read and from what I've heard, the Brazil-Canada game came down to the fact that Brazil got an amazing scrum and a good kicker. Hence 18 points, which I think came from 6 penalties, beating Canada. And Canada just could not cope with the scrum.
Now, I'm assuming that the Canadian team didn't have all their first choice players available either.
I mean, they have, if they want to select them, they could do. So it's not. It's an international window. The players can be selected. Did they have their first choice team? Not quite. They're predominantly, but they did leave a couple of props at home apparently that you'd normally expect to see there. So it's a bit sad. Well, but that hey, it's up to you what team you take.
Yeah, sure. But the reason why I say that is because there's 2 obvious names that you'd expect to be in the Canadian team. Tyler Ardron and Evan Olmsted. And they were both playing warm-up games over this side of the world.
Which is what we see with a lot of these Tier 2 things, isn't it? That we talk about it predominantly with the Pacific Islands saying they can't get their first choice teams available that often. But yeah, we're seeing that again here in the fact that they've got 2 guys who have got the opportunity to get Super Rugby experience and cash, and so hence they've taken that ahead of playing for their national side.
Paul, where was this game played?
Played in Brazil, but this is the second time that Brazil have beaten Canada in 3 years.
Wow, you've got to probably say that you wouldn't want to be in a team that's lost to Brazil, for crying out loud. So it'd be a tinge of embarrassment for a lot of these players that ran out on the field, and I think there'd be 2 very angry, gnarly Super Rugby players running around for their respective franchises this weekend if they get an opportunity to go on the paddock.
Absolutely. The other point to sort of point out here is that the way is how the America's Rugby World Cup qualification works. So basically, you have the USA and Canada play off against each other to decide America's won, and the USA won that this time. Then Canada, the team that loses that then goes into a playoff with the team that wins the America's Rugby Championship, or whatever it's called. Not the ARC, it's not called the ARC, but anyway, basically the competition that's run for all the South American teams. And obviously Uruguay won that competition. So only one team from South America can get through, because all the rest are being knocked out by their own. So Brazil couldn't get through because Uruguay beat them. Uruguay then beat Canada, and then Canada went to the repechage and got through. But now that Brazil have got, Canada went off to a playoff. Did they do a playoff first? Anyway, either way, they had at least 3 opportunities to get through, whereas Brazil basically only have 1, and they lost out to Uruguay. So now we've had Brazil beat Canada twice in 3 years. It does suggest there might need to be a relook at how the America's Rugby World Cup qualification works.
And the other thing is that we need to find out who the scrum coach is for the Brazilians. Surely he'll have some major structures around the clubs around the world going, okay, we need to find out who that guy is and bring him in.
Well, what we might see happening, which has basically happened with Georgia, is that I remember looking at the Georgia team and doing a preview for the 2015 Rugby World Cup, and basically you looked at their squad, and they're into all their props bar about 2. Sorry, all of their forwards bar about 2 were overseas playing playing professional rugby, and all their backs were at home playing domestic kind of amateur rugby. Big news actually that's come out is that the Georgian fly half has signed a 2-year contract with one of the French professional sides. So we're starting to see that happen there. But basically, what we might see is a whole bunch of Brazilian players, a whole bunch of Brazilian forwards suddenly appearing in French and English and Pro 14 teams.
But I suppose scrum's one part of the game, isn't it? You gotta do something around the field. Rest of the time, if you're in top level competition.
Yeah, they love a scrum, don't they? The guys from South America, whether it's in Argentina or Chile or it's Brazil, they love a scrum.
So there you go. There's my wild prediction there. We're going to see a lot of Brazilian forwards in the Pro 14 and the English Premiership in the not too distant future, within the next World Cup cycle. Cool. I think that's. I've not actually got it open. I haven't got my notes open for the show, but I think that's most of what we were going to talk about that wasn't Super Rugby related this evening, which takes us through to halfway through the show, which seems about right for a New Zealand focused show. Just quickly check. We've talked about ARC, Women's Six Nations. We've talked about Six Nations. We haven't touched on Major League Rugby, so just very quickly on Major League Rugby. The round 3 happened this weekend, and to show you how competitive this league is, the 2 finalists from last year so far have managed to lose 5 of their 6 games. So the Seawolves beat Glendale Raptors in the opening round, which was the final last year. So and then they've gone on to lose their 2 games on the road. Glendale are 0-3, which is amazing. So yes, it's amazing. The competitiveness of that league has really impressed me this year. Nola Gold, no one expected to do anything particularly exciting this year, and yet they've won their first 3 games. So
is that because? Is that related to the fact that some of the games are, what is it? Some of the more northern games aren't being played until later, so there's a lot more home games happening for some of the teams while the snow melts.
There's definitely an element of that. Sure, I mean Nola have won 3 games. They've all been at home. Austin Elite, for example, have lost 3. They've played 2 at home, I think. Yes, so definitely you're looking at your Austins. Austin, San Diego, Houston and New Orleans are all playing their home games predominantly at the first half of the season. Not only is that because Toronto and New York are under snow, and Seattle also is, and Utah and Colorado, or where Glendale is, are also all very cold. But also, come the second half of the season, when we get into get into May, June.
Tom Cruise is coming on the show today. Woo!
The weather down south will be extremely hot and humid. So again, it flips around. So it won't be playable in Texas and Louisiana towards the end of the season anyway. So it's twofold. It's not just because of the snow.
Not too bad, mate. I'm just doing a show on YouTube. Can I give you a call back in about half an hour?
Oh, dearie me.
Come on. Cheers, mate. Come on.
Would have been better if it was live though, eh?
Well, hey, we don't edit, so that's going to go out live anyway. So that's sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Paul. Go.
That's basically my quick Major League Rugby update. I am doing live post-match reactions to one game a weekend, so do look out for those, and obviously doing predictions on DrivingMaul Rugby Predictions.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in regards to the MLR, obviously it is actually getting a bit of a following, because one of our guests that turns up on DrivingMaul hasn't been on for a while, but Ryan from Tribe Sports app is they've started covering games on Tribe Sports, so and that's because of the requests and demand that they've been getting. And so there's a bit of growth around that competition.
And if you're wondering where you can watch those games, they're all available live on Facebook. So
I was going to say, there's a few, not name player Kiwis that are playing up here, but to give you an idea, there's a young fellow by the way who plays first five, James Semple, who plays for the Utah Warriors, is running around at first five. I think James played a little bit for maybe sort of Bay of Plenty development squad, sort of around that area. So has played in the Bay area, maybe in the counties area as well. So, but he's probably one of quite a few Kiwi boys that are running around in that competition.
There are some, and there's also some ex-Sevens players from both the from the Australian program have gone up there as well. So there's some guys from the NRC have gone over there. So when you look at the nationalities of the teams, they are very diverse. I think they're allowed up to 10 foreign players this year, now that they've expanded, and also had to cope with the fact that they're playing during the ARC when all the American Chile, because actually they've taken a lot of Chile players as well, and Canadian players are all obviously away with their national teams. So there's a lot of international talent up there, some of which you'll have played Mitre 10 Cup and even Super Rugby as well.
Yeah, counties in North Harbour, the team according to ESPN that he's played for.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, before we get on to Super Rugby, a very quick update. So during Super Rugby, here's just a quick sample as to the kind of content you're going to get from DrivingMaul. On a Tuesday, rugby predictions will come out. So round one predictions are already out on DrivingMaul.com and also DrivingMaul Rugby Predictions. There'll be the #Rugby Chat show on a Tuesday evening, which won't be exclusively Super Rugby, but will definitely focus on Super Rugby. Thursday evenings we'll be previewing the live show previewing the games, because then we'll have the squads. Friday night and Saturday night, the 7:35 games on New Zealand time, we'll be looking at doing live post-match reactions to those, and sometimes where there's a key game that's an Australian one, we might catch the Australian game as well. And then also, not this weekend, but in future weekends, the Haguaru's games, home games that are about 10 o'clock on Sunday, we'll be looking at doing post-match reactions to those. So, and then on Monday evenings, we'll do a weekend wrap-up of all of the action. So that's the kind of coverage you're going to get from DrivingMaul of Super Rugby. Now, as you can imagine, that's quite a lot of shows. That's nearly a show a day, effectively, folks. So join me on my journey and show your support for DrivingMaul by becoming a Patreon of DrivingMaul at patreon.com/DrivingMaul. And you even have the opportunity to get one of these bucket hats. There are only 4 places left in the Bucket Hat Club. So if you want to have a bucket hat sent to you in the mail, join at that tier level. And to become a patron of DrivingMaul.com so that we can bring you all of this coverage and maybe even get Stephen and Arthur in proper microphones. Wouldn't that be nice? So, Super Rugby. Beaver's back. I mean, we've already got an injury crisis at the Chiefs. Jeez, I mean, Beaver, the hero of 2011, wow. Did you see this one coming, Stephen?
No, not at all. Obviously, no, they had a few injuries. Obviously, lost Tian Falcon. I think they've re-signed Marty McKenzie, but he's still carrying an injury at the moment, which pretty much they're probably worried about just having that extra cover. And you kind of look around and I'm not saying you're scratching the bottom of the barrel, but you really are scratching around for somebody of quality. I mean, so from a purely selfish point of view, kind of opens it up for Jack Debrasini, doesn't it? Really, a great opportunity for him to put his carbon footprint down as maybe the starting first 5 for the Chiefs, and maybe also if he can put some form together, maybe even send a little bit of a message to the direction of one Michael Checker as well. So who knows? But yeah, Beaver, they'll definitely welcome them back in Chiefs area, won't they? One of their own.
Absolutely. I mean, he'll definitely get some bums on seats just by the fact that he may play. I can't see Debrasini ousting Damien McKenzie as first choice 5'8" though, personally. Or do you think Damien McKenzie's going to be shifted to fullback?
Yeah, I think depending on who they're playing in the various game plans, I think there will probably be an opportunity for Damien McKenzie to spend some time at fullback. I'm just trying to think who their fullback options probably are. Maybe Solomon Alamano.
And Sean Stevenson.
Sean Stevenson, yeah. I mean, to say they're both good players in their own right. I personally would start with Alamalo. I find Sean Stevenson a little bit, dare I say it, on the flaky side at times. Can be absolutely brilliant one moment, but come up with a horrendous mistake the next. So rocks and diamonds. So he'll probably be looking for consistency in this year's comp.
They will start with Mackenzie at first five. They'll have options at fullback where they don't have options at first five. They're not going to start Jack DeBrasini as first five because they've got someone like Marty McKenzie. We know what Jack DeBrasini can do at Super Rugby level. So they're well aware of it, and I think they will go with, in fact, I'm pretty confident they'll start with McKenzie. And then during the game, depending on how the game's developing, they will look to shuffle McKenzie to the fullback position and bring DeBrasini off the bench. Because they'll have DeBrasini being their only first five option. Obviously Beaver's there as backup, but DeBrasini being the option, he'll be on the bench as their first five backup. And again, depending on how he goes, he'll come on last 20 to go, and they'll look to push Damien McKenzie to the back.
Yeah,
if they have to bring Beaver into the game and Beaver onto the bench, they're in trouble.
Yeah, one thing I do like about the Chiefs with both McKenzie and DeBrasini, they have a high kicking percentage accuracy. I know Jack DeBrasini ended up at 88% at Mitre 10 Cup in 2018, and he developed this game, got better in terms of running the ball out line, but his ability to identify space was a real fillip for that Northern backline in 2018. Yep. So
he's got the skill set. When you watched him in the Aussie teams that he's been involved with, he's got the skill set. What he doesn't have is the consistency to execute the skill set. His error rate has been too high in the past, which has let him down. A number of times, especially obviously Melbourne Rebels is where he's played a fair bit, and you sort of see him start the game. Oh wow, DeBrasini did this there, and then as the game wears on, a crucial mistake, a kick out on the full or something like that pops into his game, and that's where. But look, he's had that time with Northland to sort of, and where he's done well, and maybe with a bit of maturity, he's ironing out some of that, being consistent through the game.
Yes, still a young guy as well. I mean, so I don't know.
How old is he?
I don't know if playing with the Melbourne Rebels is always going to help your game, Ashwin. But it's interesting. And interesting, you're talking injuries already. I see an injury to Sam Lousy as well with the Hurricanes, a pectoral injury, which is, to me, that's a huge loss for the Hurricanes, even before the season gets on track. And it's quite interesting. I was talking a little bit on the Silver Fern Forum today, just thinking of possible replacements, and here you go once again. I don't know if there's a lot of options around to replace that sort of player. I'd say if somebody like Olmsted wasn't involved with the Blues at the moment,
thank God for that.
Hang on. Slow the truck down. Olmsted is only involved with the Blues as an extended squad member, as in a pre-season. Yep. So he is not. He's if another team needs him, he's off. He's perfect. The kind of guy who could end up down there. I did a preview with a preview of the New Zealand conference with Steve from Cornflakes Crib earlier on Monday night, and one of the points that came out about that was that about the Hurricanes is their engine room really looks thin. And Fafita is not going to want to play there, because if he does, he's not going to every World Cup.
I could I'll just be watching the look on Ashwin's face when we're talking about Olmsted maybe possibly going to the Hurricanes. There's an absolute look at the stain on his face.
Oh yeah. Rayasi shouldn't be down there either, should he?
Yeah, I know. I hear you, but he is a Wellington boy, and the fact that he's re-signed with them as well. Probably says one. It's just one of those things. It's probably just about. It's all about taking your opportunities, I guess.
Yep. No, I was just gonna. What Paul's Wellington, even before the season started, with a fully fit squad, has issues in the engine room. To lose someone like a Lousy, that's major for them. If depending on how deep into the season he's gone for.
And that's on the back of losing Fatia Lofa overseas as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So all of a sudden they're starting to look thin. So all of a sudden the workload all of a sudden goes on the likes of a James Blackwell, who's a good footballer, not a big footballer, but you also start looking at guys like Jeff Cridge, who's a really big man, who's been part of the Hawke's Bay setup. Yeah, the Hawke's Bay setup for quite a while. He's actually been in the Hurricanes the last couple of years, but been injured a lot of the time. So here's an opportunity for him to repay his franchise. And then you've got the boy from the New Zealand 20s, it's Leo Walker. Leo Walker. You've got. I think he's a good footballer as well. But extremely young. I know exactly what you mean. And we spoke about Fafita. No, he wouldn't want to go back and lock in a scrum. He probably sees an opportunity to make the All Blacks in that 6 jersey.
Hey, just on another sort of. So wouldn't this be ironic, don't you think, if you had Jeff Cridge, who out of Hawke's Bay Rugby Union makes it into the All Blacks? Because guess where he's originally from?
Oh, let me guess. Auckland, by any chance?
No, Christchurch.
Oh, Christchurch.
Mr. Retallick. Who went to Hawke's Bay and has made his way. Which would be like, oh, this is like, history repeating itself.
And he's a seriously big boy. He's over...
Just 2 meters?
Yeah, he's well over 2 meters, and he's got bulk as well. So, it's interesting. I've heard just in terms of injuries, heard through my grapevine that Jack Goodhue is out of Saturday's clash, got a groin strain. And the boy Enoa ran at centre at the Crusaders training. So there's a scoop. Right. You get all the scoops on the driving maul.
And that's at least 4 All Blacks out of the Crusaders team, with Reid, Sam Whitelock, and also Cody Taylor all being rested because of their Rugby World Cup expected exertions later in the season. So yes, so that's the so that's all going on there. Other. Should we do a bit of a know your enemy bit first, and then come back to the New Zealand teams?
Well, I think so. But amazing how we're talking about. We've just spent like close to 10 minutes on injuries, and we haven't started the season.
Yes.
Let's look at our enemies, Paul.
So let's start off with the Africa Conference. The Lions obviously made the final in the last few years, but have lost another couple of players to Gloucester. Can they keep hemorrhaging these players and still be competitive?
In a word, no.
They were margin.
You almost get the sense that the Lions, they kind of almost reached the mountaintop. They were in how many finals, guys?
Three
finals. Unfortunately, you kind of look at, they obviously lost a very good coach. Schmidt? Is it Smith?
No, Ackerman.
Ackerman. Yeah. Johan Ackerman. Losing Johan Ackerman, and then you start losing players here there to English clubs. It's gonna hurt. They'll still maybe have the core of a decent team there, but I don't know. I think they've reached their mountain, and they're going to start to plateau. I'm quite excited about a team like the Stormers. They seem to have a lot of good young players, and they played some really good code on their day. And you know that the Sharks.
Well, no, one team at a time. Don't. You're not allowed to go through the whole conference on your own.
Not allowed to jump. Oh, okay.
Deary me. Give it. No, you can jump onto the next one, but you can't hog the whole conference and go through all of them one by one and just say everything. My one comment about the Stormers is that there is a massive power struggle at the moment between the Stormers and Western Province, which is the province that the Stormers are based in. Off the pitch, it's becoming very dysfunctional, and it's whether that impacts the players on the pitch that I'm worried about.
That sounds familiar. That sounds familiar. We've heard that one somewhere before. I don't know where.
Well,
between the Super Rugby franchise and the province.
The Blues, yes. This one's got to the levels where they're arguing as to who actually gets to place, who actually gets to decide who appoints coaching positions and that kind of stuff.
Oh,
it's all a bit of a mess. Obviously, Mitchell. Sorry, that's wrong one. So the Stormers on paper look good. Unfortunately, it's whether they'll have the structures to be allowed them to do it. Ashwin Bulls with John Mitchell having left. Can you see is it another rebuilding year for them?
It's always a rebuilding year for every South African team. So yes, they lose real. Well, the thing is that I suppose over here in New Zealand we get used to the 4-year cycle of losing key players. Generally, at the end of a Super Rugby season, you might lose 1 or 2 key players, but the way that the South African teams turn over it's hard to sort of, get momentum. So yeah, with the Bulls, look, and not wanting to jump ahead, but across all the South African teams, it's really an unknown. It's hard to know how good they're going to be, because there's been some good acquisitions that have come back out of Europe who aren't past the use-by date, come back in and they are going to be playing Super Rugby. We don't know how well they're going to go. We don't know how the rest of the team around them, how good they are. So the South Africans are a bit of an unknown, really, for me.
Well, let's just jump out there and Dwayne Vermeulen, you're talking about, obviously. Marty Banks has come back. We've got Mar Nonu's come back. Brits. The hooker from Saracens has come back, retired, and is back there playing. Trying to think who else is. There was someone else as well, but it's Adam Ashley Cooper. So who is the most exciting player, the most exciting return player that you're looking forward to seeing this season, Stephen?
Oh, definitely Brits. I just love the way he charges around the paddock. He's full of energy. Definitely looking forward to seeing the little nuggety hooker run around.
Ashwin, who's your favourite returning player that you're looking forward to seeing?
I think for me, and it's because it's not just Super Rugby related. It's Mar Nonu. I don't think there's any sort of questions about the fact that he really wants a black jersey back, and so there's a lot more to it. And so for me, it's Mar Nonu to see not just on field but off field. Because the fact is, we've had this, and I've made the statement before, for him to have a shot at the black jersey, the team in the blue jerseys has to go well. For him to help the team in the blue jerseys go well, he's got to provide input off the field, and be a senior member, lead by example, all the experience, bring all that sort of stuff in there. That's why there's so many. It's like a soap opera. For me, with Mar Nonu coming back, there's so many elements to it.
I mean, Adam Ashley Cooper's a similar story, I think. But for me, I just love the kind of cult hero. So if Marty Banks could come back and be first choice fly half for the Highlanders, that would be fantastic. So yes, I'm behind Marty Banks on this one. He's had some issues in the past. I mean, he signed for an Italian club and then didn't go for some personal reasons. I've got no idea what they were for the first year, went for the second year. So I'm not sure what he's got going on off the pitch, but as far as on the pitch and big afro hair, gotta love it.
Screech.
Anyway, back to knowing our enemies, and then the final one, the Sharks. Steve, you wanted to talk about them?
Yeah, I mean, they're always going to be tough. Their forwards are always tough and uncompromising. The two DePrau brothers and that team, they're like double trouble. Then you sort of go into their back line. Their brother Robert, if he's still with the franchise, runs the cutter. Yeah, they're pretty tidy. They've got some good footballers. They've got the big second five that played for the Springboks last year. Just his name Esterhazen. He's a big man, 6'4". So we almost know what style of rugby they're going to bring to the table. Very, very abrasive.
Yeah, my problem with the Sharks is that they look great on paper and they just don't deliver it on the grass. For me, they're the most disappointing side, potentially in Super Rugby, in just not delivering to their potential.
I was about to say, Paul, they got an interesting first up away game against the Sunwolves, so that's going to be interesting.
The Sunwolves is going to be an interesting one. I mean, I'll ask you, can we, with their sort of their foreign legion and all the Japanese squad away for international training camp for the first 5 weeks, what can we expect from this Sunwolves side?
Oh, back the truck up here. Back the truck up. So they don't have the Japanese internationals in the Sunwolves.
Not for the first 5 weeks. Jamie Joseph has taken them away.
Just 5 weeks.
For 5 weeks. For 5 weeks training camp. And Tony Brown has basically got, a foreign legion to play with. With players such as Rennie Ranger, Hayden Parker, Brits is in there.
Willie Brits.
Cara
Pryor?
And Dan Pryor.
Yeah, both of them on there. Oh, sorry, I didn't know both of them were there.
Both Pryors.
So the Pryor brothers.
Little's up there as well. It's real. Yes, there's a real. It strikes me a little bit of what the Highlanders used to be. Everyone that basically who's not wanted as a New Zealand by a New Zealand franchise. Hey, we'll have them.
Sounds like the Blues development squad, guys.
There's a few there. Yes. Well, I mean, it's a tough one because at the end of the day, it'll come down to that type 5 for the Sunwolves. Because you just mentioned that they're playing the Sharks. We know the Sharks have got a pretty good, as Steve's talked about, they front up front. And, so it's really going to come down to what the Sunwolves have in the front type 5.
You know what, guys? I think they're going to be a good watch. I think they'll play some good code. They'll probably get beaten by. That's my wife's phone's going off, guys. It's crazy.
We know it's not yours because it's not Mission Impossible.
No, exactly.
No, Mission Impossible is only for the key clients. The bad clients get this ringtone. It's going to be a great story in to follow. If nothing else, because I think there are so many names there that the Kiwi or New Zealand fans will know and will enjoy seeing how they go and with given an opportunity. So,
just going to quickly rattle off a few names. The front row: Paliasi Manu, Sam Prattley, and then Nathan Vella. That could make up their front row. Their locks, interesting. I think in the locks they've actually got Cara Pryor named in one of their locks, which is rather interesting. But they've got Luke Thompson, Wimpy Vanderwalt. So there's Mark Abbott in their lock. So look, they should be able to roll out. Just looking at their list, they should be able to roll out a decent type 5.
I mean, I'm expecting basically there to be about 2 Japanese players starting in their first game. Because all the good ones are away with the national team. The 30 best players are in training camp. And so, it really is going to be a foreign legion at first one up, which could lead to this Brothers in Arms fantastic one, or it could lead to we're just here for the money, I really can't care. Who knows?
I would like to think that because there's a lot of New Zealand boys there, and while some of them are probably, I hate to use the phrase past their best years, but they'll still play with a hell of a lot of pride, and I think they'll give the Bulls a lot of air, and it won't be easy travelling up there. I'm not too sure what time is kick-off for the Sharks, but I know a lot of teams have absolutely struggled with the heat.
Well, yes, because being in Singapore, it's going to be 32 degrees.
Yeah.
Shall I carry on? Jamie Booth at scrum half, Aiden Parker at fly half, Rennie Ranger and Samisi Masarewa and on the wing, so Masarewa on the wing, but Will Tupou in the centres, fullback, Jason Emery. They could roll out a pretty decent Barbarian squad.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we all chuckle now, but you wouldn't want to be that New Zealand franchise that heads up there and gets knocked over.
Oh, wait, they would.
I can think of one. Yeah.
They would love that one now. I'm not sure. I don't know what the Sunwolves schedule's like. I'm just trying to think who's going to hit them first up there from a New Zealand point of view, because as you say, there's a whole bunch of guys there who will just really enjoy putting it to the so-called better New Zealand players. Okay, here we go then. So the Sunwolves come down 2nd of March. They come down and play the Chiefs, and then on the 9th of March they play the Blues, but that's in New Zealand. So without their Japanese internationals, I don't think they'll have them back by those two games. So that's going to be those two games should be fun to watch.
Well, actually, it's something incredible. I know the year that they knocked over the Blues guys. On that same year when they played the Chiefs in Hamilton, you might have been there, Paul. The Chiefs only really beat them in the last 5 minutes or so.
And that's going to be the Sunwolves' problem early doors, isn't it? They're going to have no bench, effectively. So anyway, but yeah, so they'll be fun to watch and a great story, but don't expect them to make the finals. Jaguares, the other lone country team, they've lost Sanchez, but from what I hear, the replacement fly halves have worked with their new coach a lot, and so they'll know his systems and how he works. So perhaps there won't be the drop off that I was expecting in that position there, because obviously I want to say Creevy, but clearly that's the player who plays. I mean, Ledesma's moved on to the Argentinian national team, and they've got a new coach in there. So it's going to be interesting to see how that transfer happens. Now then, boys, do we just lump all the Australian teams together as being poor, or is there one there that stands out that you think is going to cause some people some issues?
Well, we'll get it. The good thing about it, we get a gauge first up on Friday night, second game of Super Rugby. The Rebels travel to Canberra, and I think we'll find out what the Rebels are all about. On the surface, they look like the team that's recruited rather well. They look really good on paper. But we all know the Brumbies are a niggly, hard side to play at home. If they can get past them and get off to the appropriate start, I think they might gain confidence out of them. I think they're probably the team to watch. I don't want to, and probably I know the other team, probably the Waratahs. Those are probably in my mind, those are the two teams to watch.
Osman, any agree or?
I agree. I'm just waiting to see the Rebels run out and see what they deliver on the paddock. They've said, like, they've got the first 5 scrum half combination, which is very interesting in Wilgenia and Quade Cooper. It gives Quade Cooper a chance to put his hand up for World Cup selection. Aussies, they've got one first 5 and that's it. And if Quade sort of brings his A game, it's going to be hard for Mickey Mouse. I mean, for Michael Cheika to leave him out. So, yeah.
Oh, dearie me. So the Quade Cooper apparently is an injury worry for the weekend. Not a long-term one, but he might miss out the first game. Slipper, who's the other Reds reject, is apparently injured for the Brumbies, unfortunately. And then we've got Carmichael Hunt, the resident drug dealer, has joined up with the Waratahs. And the Waratahs, as always, they've got all those wallabies in there, but whether they'll actually put it together in a game, who knows? And then the Reds, well, hey, when you got Brad Thorne there, they'll be who's an inexperienced coach. Good luck to you, really, to be honest with you, because he didn't manage to do it last year. I'm not expecting much from them this year.
It's a development red squad with a development coach.
Pretty much. So coming back to the land of the long white cloud, let's go north south then. The Blues, Ashwin, your beloved team. Nonu's back. We've got the they've got the 2015 Rugby World Cup final centre combination that won the game. We've got All Blacks players in or people with All Blacks experience at 9. We've got Akira Iwani wanting to say, "Hey, I'm going to the Rugby World Cup." we've got lots of people on the Blues bandwagon. Is the hype train really? Is there any substance behind it?
Look, I mean, there's massive changes happening behind the scenes in Blues Rugby, and I just had a catch up today with one of our part-time guests that pops up on the show, Pierre Milan, today, and had a quick catch up with him, and we were sort of both in agreement. At the end of the day, it's for the Blues, and as a Blues fan, it's never been about winning or losing or winning the championship. Of course, you want to win the championship. It's the way that you conduct yourself in those in the games. So what you're looking for is the fact is that can you actually see a culture change? The way that the game is managed on the field, the way the off-field things are managed. So that's what you're looking for, and that's the key thing. So, they've got a good test coming up against Crusaders in the first round. And really it's about seeing some signs about discipline on the field, about game management, game plans on the field, that sort of thing, about effort. That's what it's about, making the right decision. So that's what you're looking to see. And in that first game, they've got that opportunity to show that there is something happening.
So
just taking on board all the things that Ashwin has just said. What I'm really excited about, that I think the first time in a long time they've actually got a quality coach involved with this Blues team. And I know, talking to a few people who were at the 2 pre-season games, what they've actually noticed is just a little bit more speed and urgency in and around the breakdowns, a little bit more brutal, just hitting those breakdowns a little bit collectively harder. And, the Blues have always had decent backs and they never fight. I think the other little area I quite like there, I think they've got a battery of first fives that can maybe manage the game a little bit better. Somebody like Teddy Brack, good percentage goal kicker. I still worry a little bit about Augustine Pulu, is just probably the things that he, Augustine, we know what a wonderful individual player he can be, but it's just those first instinctive things as well. And I just like to think there's a little bit more depth with this Blues squad for 2019 in the past. I just think they probably had a good 15 to 22 once they started having the injuries. A lot of issues started to happen. So listen, I'm not getting super excited, but just some of the things, as Ashwin pointed out to you, that you're hearing in and around. If your backroom, things are happening good in the backroom, the other things just fall into place. But we'll wait and see. We'll get a gauge on Saturday night.
So what I would expect to see is the fact that they're winning games against the likes of the Chiefs and Highlanders, and with the Hurricanes they're being competitive with the opportunity to win. That's the type of thing that there's certain squads this year that are weaker than they have been, and you've got to go and win those games. There's no if, buts, or maybes, and that's the sort of thing. And really, that becomes about preparation, attitude, sort of thing.
So I was saying definitely a strengthened squad and coaching setup, but we slide on down the road to the Chiefs. You've already mentioned there that some squads are weaker than they've been before. Sam Cane out for pretty much the season. They've already lost Fletcher Smith for the season. So hence they've already got injury worries there.
Pardon?
Tian Strauss out. Tian Falcon. Sorry, not Fletcher Smith. Fletcher Smith is at the Hurricanes. Yes. Tian Falcon's out as well. Marty Banks is still coming back from injury. They look a bit thin in places where, who the hell's going to play fullback? When Marty Banks is listed as one of your fullbacks, as a Super Rugby team, you're in a bit of trouble. So to me, I guess I'm seeing a very thin squad that can put out a good 15, but after a couple of injuries, they're going to be hoping to get club players that come through in the way that Carl did last year. Otherwise, they're going to really struggle. Is that fair?
That's very fair. You talk about the Chiefs are a team that play with a lot of mana, and a lot of that mana has been built around people like Liam Messam, who they don't have anymore. Also, Charlie Ngatai was always good and solid for them. They've lost a player of his capability as well. So on the surface, I know they had a whole lot of injuries last year, but I often said to a lot of Chiefs supporters, but you still had the core group available, all of a sudden they're a bit thin on the ground. Although, they're going to have some pretty gnarly guys in their pack with Tyler Ardron and Brodie Retallick and Michael Allardyce. Those are good quality locks, and we know they'll be reasonably strong up front with Nepo Lalala and Atu Moli coming, even though he's come back from sort of injury. So they'll still have quality in the right places, but like I say, it comes back to that.
And Kane Hames.
Kane Hames. But
is Michael Leach, was he there last year or had he already left?
He'd already left. He was at the Sunwolves last year. So the Chiefs, really on a bit of a knife edge, skating on thin ice because the strength, the depth of their strength, whatever. Heading further south, down to the Hurricanes, as we've already said, issues in the engine room, but apart from that, a backline that to die for. I mean, a fantastic backline. Just question marks about that front five, isn't
it? Yep. But to be fair to the Hurricanes, every season, the last 3 seasons where they've been, there or thereabouts in terms of the business end of the season, we've always had question marks about their type 5. But the type 5 they put out on the paddock has been able to deliver. So it's not like they can't, but it becomes hard, doesn't it? They've really got to be on their game.
Well, it's a tight 5. I mean, they've probably got more depth at hooker than any other team in the competition. And then you look at other positions, you're like, but you've only got one guy there. It's a very uneven squad.
Yeah, it is a bit. It's filled with the odd veteran and Ben May, and then you've got the likes of Jeff Tumunga-Allen, who's I think he's probably looking to go offshore after this year's Super Rugby. We spoke about the locks before. The loose forward trio is going to be an interesting one for me. Obviously, Brad Shields has moved on to other pastures after last year's Super Rugby. Not an easy guy to replace because we all know how good he is at that super level. So all of a sudden, you're finding a new combination to partner up with Ardie Savea. There's definitely enough talent. I'd have to really look over their squad and have a look. But despite having Geordie Barrett and obviously the 2 Barrett brothers and some really, really good finish, they've got some super exciting young backs that we can look out for, and the likes of Rayasi and Billy Proctor. Super excited to see how he goes, but man, these games are one up front, and it's going to be their issue.
Yeah, I mean, Billy Proctor is one I'm definitely looking out for because a kid who gets a 5-year contract, wow, something I want to see, and he doesn't have to do it in year 1, to be honest, but I'd expect to see something in year 1 at least. I expect their loose trio to be Ardie Savea, Via Fafita, and Gareth Evans. And it's going to be real. I mean, Gareth Evans got called up into that All Black squad for the Japan game. He's just really got to show that he can actually play for a full 80 minutes and not switch off. So again, a decent first 15, but as soon as they have to start resting players, it's that's when the question marks happen. A team that depth doesn't seem to be as deep as the trench, the deepest part of the ocean.
Kermadec Trench.
Pardon?
As deep as the Kermadec Trench.
There we go.
It runs by them.
So there we go. The Crusaders missing 3 All Blacks or 4 All Blacks in their for their opening game, but have they actually lost anybody? It's pretty much the championship winning side all over again with no particular issues.
Pretty much.
Yeah, there's not much you can say about them. We all know they're well coached. They'll slowly integrate their All Blacks back into the system. So I suppose for other teams who are playing them early is to try and strike while the iron's hot, while they're down on a little bit of firepower. But one thing you always know with the Crusaders, whoever comes into that, whoever puts that Crusaders jersey on, plays at the top of their game. Really, the only people that can beat themselves are the Crusaders.
I suppose what you can do is we can talk about players that. I know Steve's probably looking forward to seeing Will Jordan how he goes, but and I'm going to butcher his name. Is Old Leicester? So I'll leave it at that, shall I? Oh yeah, that's the one. I mean, like, I'm interested to see how he goes because he's a young lad and he's big, he's fast, and yeah, he's pretty dynamic. So you're looking forward to seeing how he goes as well as Will Jordan.
Yeah,
I mean, like, I'm not convinced that our back line for the All Blacks has the X factor that they're quite after. Whether it's too late for a young player to push their way into a World Cup squad in World Cup year, I don't know, but there's two players that I think, we'll be keeping an eye on as fans and as spectators.
I mean, Tamana is the only player that I can think that they're going to miss because he gives them he was a quality player. But yes, I guess the big difference here is that under Razor, they've won their opening games the last 2 years. Under Blackadder, they never did. So I don't even at the beginning of the season with Razor there, I don't think they're going to give teams much change. To be honest,
I was going to say, Paul, in Whaianuku, they're probably almost a like-for-like replacement because Whaianuku, from what I understand, is quite big as well, 6'1", 6'2", like Tamani Valu. So I don't really know if they lose a heck of a lot there.
If maybe just an experience then.
Yeah. And then don't forget you've got the guy who could possibly force his way into the All Black team, George Bridge as well. We got a bite-sized sample of how good he can be. So they got a lot of cover. They got the likes of Havili who can play on the wing. Obviously slot Nino into centre. Ryan Prodi. There'll probably be a little bit of concern with all the head knocks that he's taken in recent times. We'll keep an eye on him, but the old firms back, Matt Todd's back again, and when you got Matt Todd and Jordan Taufua, especially, man, Jordan Taufua just gives you everything, doesn't he? Gives you go forward. He's going to be a huge loss for not just Crusaders rugby, but also New Zealand rugby in general.
After the World Cup, yes. And then finally, we have got the Highlanders down in the bottom there. To me, the massive question mark is the fact they've lost Sopoaga. So again, they've lost All Black, an experienced All Black, and the backfill is not Warren Gatland. Jeez, his son, but it's still a Gatland, Bryn Gatland, who couldn't hold down the number 10 jersey at the Blues last year, or Marty Banks, who he is a cult hero, but he's not really who you want to pin your franchise around. So to me, that's again, they're just losing little bits of depth, little bits of experience, and I'm not sure it's growing around them. But they do actually have an amazing amount of depth that's in the centres.
Yeah, I was going to say, Paul, just before we got to the centres, an area where I am quite excited about the Highlanders is a couple of their locks who will be pushing for places and maybe in a Rugby World Cup squad. And I'm talking about Jackson Hemapoa and also a guy I got a bit of time for, Paddy Parkinson. There's just something about him that I like. I like the fact that he does all his basics well and he carries so aggressively. I'd be really curious to see what sort of body shape he turns out in 2019 with. He probably looked like he could have done with about maybe another 5 or 7 kgs on his frame, but he looks a real talent to me. We also know that the Highlanders will be very good in the loose forwards as well. Liam Squire, from what I understand, is bulked up a little bit more, got a little bit fitter, and has got a point to prove. Wants to make that All Black jersey his own jersey. So they'll be still strong. Come back to your point about the first fives. That'll be the key. Who's going to slot in there? You've also got our man Marty Banks floating around. He's been in the Highlanders before. He knows how they play, and he's got experience.
Hey, what's the deal with the All Blacks and how much game time they can have in that? Obviously, we've just talked about with the Crusaders and 4 key All Blacks that won't be starting for the first couple of rounds or however many it is. But then you have got some that are coming in. Do we know what the actual criteria is on which All Blacks can and can't play? Or is it just...
So the criteria is all Blacks have to be rested for 2 games once after they've started playing. Okay? then selected All Blacks, and the ones that spring to mind are so Cody Taylor's missing 1, Kieran Reid and Sam Whitelock are missing 3, Bowden Barrett's out initially as well. So individual ones have been rested a bit longer, depending on the workloads they had last year. But even when Kieran Reid comes back after 3 weeks, he will have to have another 2 weeks off as well. So it's not like his 2 weeks are already done. But other players such as Ben Smith, Aaron Smith, I think they'll be up straight away. But the delay at the beginning of the season is player by player.
Because the reason I asked that is because obviously with Aaron Smith, I don't think he was at his top of his game last year, so he's going to be looking to basically lift again to get back to where he was. I think he got owned in a few internationals personally, obviously namely at the Cape Town against South Africa, and then the game with Ireland.
Yep. So there's a big question mark for Highlanders is, do they have the pivot to pull the pieces together? Because they've got some decent pieces there. It's just a matter of making sure that it all clicks and guiding them around the park. And to me, Gatland isn't a bad option for them. Personally, I'd like to see Gatland plays a bit slow. He's not one of those players who looks like he's got lots of time on the ball. But he's a guy. He's a player who can guide a team around the pitch. And with someone like Aaron Smith inside him, with people like Fadders, Walden, is it Taylor? I've gone blank. No, Thompson. That's it. And Barracuda outside him, he doesn't actually have to be taking it to the line and being massively attacking. He can let those guys do it for him. They just need someone to guide them around the pitch.
He just needs to make the right call at the right time. That's it.
Yeah.
Take the right options.
I was going to say Rob Thompson this time. Under a year ago, he was being talked about as a possible All Black contender, wasn't he, Rob Thompson? But unfortunately for Rob, went back to sort of Manawatu team that was struggling. And
he shouldn't have been struggling.
Yeah, exactly, and he struggles as well. Another interesting newcomer, I'll be very curious to see how he goes, is young Josh Ioane, who's going to be one of the backup first fives, but he's a pretty classy footballer. Once again, they'll just rely on their two Smiths again, I would imagine. Being at the back, Aaron in the half-back area, probably being their main men. They'll be there or thereabouts. We all know they're a very difficult team to beat down under the Forsyth Bar.
So there you go, guys. That's your quick overview of all the teams in Super Rugby. Which game, Stephen, are you looking forward to most this weekend?
Oh, shivers! Both the New Zealand derbies, if I'm honest. But
I've asked you for a game. You've gone and stolen Ashwin's one now. Come on, which game? Game
Oh, I think the Blues. It's got to be the Blues Crusaders game. We're all curious to see how the new era of Leon McDonald starts.
Ditto.
You're both looking at that one. There's a couple actually. I think the Waratahs Hurricanes game to me is going to be a blowout one way or the other. It's just interesting as to which way it's going to go, because the Hurricanes have been involved in big wins and big losses in the opening games of the season. So if you want a tri-fest, that's a good one to watch. Apparently the Lions are taking a first choice team to Argentina for the first time ever. Now historically they've always rested players and they've always lost in Argentina, so with them taking a first choice team to the Jaguares, that's going to be an interesting one because the Jaguares, as I say, got that new coach, missing Sanchez. I'm really interested to see what kind of side the Jaguares are this season. So there you go, folks. That's been your Hash Rugby Chat. We'll be back tomorrow night with the All Blacks edition over on the All Blacks edition channel, where we'll be obviously talking about All Blacks stuff. We've got some coaching issues to talk about. We've got some players who are coming and going to talk about as well, and a few other issues to in there. If you have any issues you want us to talk about, then hey, drop me a line on Twitter @DrivingMaul for your All Blacks issues. Don't forget to subscribe up there. Down there is how you become a Patreon of Driving Maul to support me and help Ashwin and Stephen get some good microphones. And over there, the artificial intelligence, that is YouTube, says you'll love those videos. Good night.